What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Khabib predicts Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Dvalishvili. Khabib Nurmagomedov is hoping that his cousin Umar adds another UFC title to his family's trophy case next weekend. But don't expect a legendary fighter to start trashing the abilities of Merab Dvalishvili. Umar Nurmagomedov will challenge the new bantamweight champion in the co-headliner of UFC 311 on January 18th. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Despite the awe-inspiring runs both men have been on, as the fight nears, Nurmagomedov is a pretty significant favorite to win the scrap. After all, he's never been defeated, and he's demonstrated he's far from being a one-dimensional fighter. Despite all that, Khabib isn't looking past Merab, far from it. The former lightweight champion was asked to weigh in on the upcoming fight during the UFC countdown, and here's some of what Khabib had to say. Merab is a very good fighter. He has very good conditioning, and he has very good pressure. He knows how to wrestle, he knows how to punch, and he can take a punch. He has heart, he has championship heart. But striking game, Umar's kicks are much better. His distance, Merab is a better freestyle wrestler, and Merab is better than him on pressure. But with Umar, we see the way how he mixes it up like mixed martial arts. He's one of the best right now in the world, not only in his weight class, but if you go down grappling, Umar is much better than him. It's going to be a very high level fight. Hard to argue with any of that, right? Umar isn't really known as a lights out type of striker, but as noted, the consensus is he's a more well-rounded fighter than the champion. Now, it'll be interesting to see if Nurmagomedov tries to put Merab on his back, or if he looks to keep the fight standing. Who do you think will be hoisting the bantamweight belt after the UFC 311 co-headliner? Islam Makhachev says Ilia Topuria fight would be easy. Islam Makhachev has made it abundantly clear that he's determined to add another division's title to his resume, and that welterweight is in his sights. But talk about him fighting the featherweight king Ilia Topuria just won't go away. As a result, the lightweight champion isn't closing the door on that fight completely. Not just yet. Makhachev is booked to fight Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 311, and talk about who could come next if he wins is already in full swing. The Dagestani star has repeatedly said he's hoping to challenge for the welterweight crown. But Makhachev has also said he would like to avoid fighting his teammate, the current champion, Belal Muhammad. Meanwhile, Topuria has also talked extensively about moving up to lightweight. So the questions about Makhachev throwing hands with Topuria continues to make the rounds. Case in point, Makhachev was once again asked about this possibility while talking with streamer Aiden Ross.
Not make sense. I fought with Ilia for what? Not belt, nothing, Money, I have money, I don't need money. And I already fight with some of the guys who come from the small division, but I'm not saying no. If I clean my division, and if people want, if Dana want, why not?
Make
One
it happen.
day,
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's interesting to hear. If Muhammad continues to hold the welterweight title, and if Makhachev and Topuria continue their reigns at 155 and 145 respectively, then this fight could happen. And it's not too surprising to hear Islam throwing in the term easy while discussing a bout with Topuria, because Islam defeated Alexander Volkanovski twice, who is widely considered to be one of the greatest featherweights of all time. While talking to Ross, Makhachev also acknowledged that at one juncture, his dream fight was to battle Tony Ferguson. For quite some time, Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov, Islam's good buddy, were considered the best lightweights in the galaxy, but the fight never happened due to various injuries and circumstances. Some would even say it was like the fight was cursed. If Makhachev had fought prime Ferguson back in, say, 2018, do you think he would have won? Up next, Dana White confirms UFC 311 backup plan. Due to the devastating fires that have been ravaging the Los Angeles region, there's been a lot of speculation recently as to whether UFC 311 could be impacted. The stacked card is currently set to take place at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood on January 18th. Well, recently Ariel Helwani noted that the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas could be an option if, unfortunately, the fires continue and UFC 311 needs to be moved. Recently, streamer Aiden Ross caught up with UFC CEO Dana White. When the subject of the fires and UFC 311 came up, White confirmed that Vegas is currently the backup plan.
Well, if the fire gets bad, we're coming to Vegas. Yeah, we'll move it to Vegas if it gets too bad. But as of now, it's all a go. NBA is going to go this week. We're going to go.
It goes without saying that hopefully the fires come under control and the devastation in the region comes to a halt. But it's also nice to know that the UFC has another option for next Saturday's card. While UFC 311 may not have massive mainstream stars booked from a North American perspective, hardcore fans know, or at least they should, that the main card is a must-see. Tom Aspinall provides update on Jon Jones fight. If you've been praying to the MMA gods to hear if and when Tom Aspinall and Jon Jones are gonna fight, well, keep doing that. But according to a recent update from Aspinall, it sounds like we could have a date for the much-discussed fight pretty soon. As you surely know, for months now, the MMA world has been buzzing about Aspinall and Jones throwing down. For much of 2024, Bones repeatedly scoffed at the idea that he needed to fight Aspinall. But after he put away Stipe Miocic in November, the heavyweight champion did open the door to fighting Aspinall, provided the UFC wedges that door open with stacks of cash. In a more recent video that Aspinall's team shared out, the interim heavyweight champion relayed he's agreed to fight the renowned and controversial fighter. Further, he believes we could hear news from Jones' side pretty soon.
I've said yes to the fight, I've agreed to it obviously, and that's it. I'm just waiting for his side now and the UFC to sort it out. Yeah, I'm just training now. I'm just training and getting everything focused to be as fit and ready as I possibly can, because who knows, they might spring the date on me quick, or they might say, oh, the date's going to be in 6 months, I don't know. But that's always kind of what happens between fights anyway. You never really know when your next one is. I'm just preparing now to fight, really. There's obviously there's no dates yet. There's an opponent there towards the next opponent and towards the next date, and waiting to find out when that is. I should imagine I'm going to find out in the next couple of weeks, so it's all good.
Now sure, it's certainly possible that Jones and his team would continue to hold out in search of more cash. Or it's also possible, as some have opined, that Bones does not really want to fight the rising English star. But here's hoping that we get some good news on this soon. That aside, if you follow Michael Bisping closely, you know that he believes Aspinall will bring the unified heavyweight crown back to England. But recently, the former middleweight champion reported he's been thinking about the matchup even further, and he's changed his mind somewhat. Via social media, the Count posted this when asked who he thinks will win between Aspinall and Jones. I said Tom for a long time, but I do now think it won't be as easy as what I once thought it would be. Who do you believe will take this fight, if and when it happens? Kayla Harrison body slams YouTuber after a prank. After a YouTuber interrupted Kayla Harrison in training, she threw him to the ground and made him tap. Here's the clip.
I'm just trying to give you pointers, sweetheart. That's it.
You want to body your sensei real quick?
What's that? What's a body assistant? Oh! It's a prank, man. I'm just playing. It's a prank. It's a prank. It's a prank. Look at the camera. Hey! Ah!
She commented on the incident on Instagram, writing, "Bow to your sensei." A lot of people think this is scripted out, but what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Israel Adesanya revealed that he had sparred with Robert Whittaker ahead of his match at Fight Night on February 1st. He posted the clip to his social media. Arman Tsarukyan will rematch Islam Makhachev if he wins. Arman Tsarukyan has some serious work to put in first, but if he does end the reign of Islam Makhachev at UFC 311, the Armenian fighter says he's down for a rubber match. Tsarukyan made his octagon debut against Makhachev back in 2019, and while he turned heads throughout MMA with his performance, he lost the bout via unanimous decision. On account of the 9-1 run he's put together since then, which includes wins over contenders like Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira, he's been booked for a rematch with Islam. Well, ahead of the highly anticipated fight, Tsarukyan spoke with Shaquille Majori. When he was asked if he beats Makhachev, if he would agree to a trilogy fight, the powerful fighter said yes. Of course, this is the best fight I can have, you know? In Russian, we say, when you shoot, you two rabbits in one shot, you know? Okay, kind of like with a rematch on the title fight. You know it's not just a rematch. Much respect to Tsarukyan for this response, as really, a rubber match would make sense. Not only because if Arman wins at UFC 311, each man will have a victory over the other, Makhachev has defended the lightweight belt 3 times, and really, there is no other clear-cut #1 contender. But would the UFC go that route? It could depend on how the bout at UFC 311 unfolds. You would think, however, they would. But what do you think? If Tsarukyan takes the lightweight crown from Makhachev, do you want to see them run it back for a 3rd time? Khabib breaks silence on being kicked off a flight. He took to Twitter to address the situation by writing, "First of all, I need to clarify that it was Fly Frontier, not Alaska Air. A lady who comes to me with questions was very rude from the very beginning, even though I speak very decent English and can understand everything, and agreed to assist. She still insists on removing me from my seat. What was the base for that? Racial, national, or other one? I'm not sure. But after 2 minutes of conversation, she called security and I was deplaned from the aircraft. After 1.5 hours, I boarded another airline, One, and left to my destination. I did my best to stay calm and be respectful, as you can see in the video, but those crew members could do better next time and just be nice with clients. Up next, Chris Curtis breaks silence after UFC loss. Following the controversial end to the Roman Kopylov and Chris Curtis war at UFC Vegas 101, the Action Man released an emotional statement. As many expected would be the case, the Kopylov-Curtis fight delivered some serious fireworks, so much so it earned Fight of the Night honors. But the fight was tainted by the fact that referee Mark Smith jumped in with just 1 second left to hand Kopylov the TKO victory. Curtis, needless to say, was unhappy about the stoppage. Following his loss, the rugged veteran posted a lengthy statement via Instagram. Here's some of what Curtis had to say. Only job in the world where you can make $200K in a night and still be absolutely heartbroken and questioning where you go from here. No damage, I'm fine. Probably train tomorrow for my sanity, but just frustrated and heartbroken. 8 months off, hamstring tear, broken foot, and then a calf tear. Trained through it all. Never lost sight of the goal, just hurts to come up short. Thank you to everyone who reached out. Have had a lot of love online and in person. It means the world to me. I guess I should take some comfort in Fight of the Night, but I only view tonight as a failure. Maybe 170 is the way to go from here. Rest this weekend, and I guess we have a talk with the team and management about what comes next. It'll be interesting to see if Curtis does elect to move down to welterweight. While the stoppage is widely being discussed, it is worth noting that 2 of the judges had Kopylov up 2 rounds to nothing, and the other had it 1-1 before the fight was stopped. So it's unlikely that Curtis would have been handed the victory. But as others noted via social media, Curtis probably should have been allowed to meet the final bell. UFC veteran and Bellator light heavyweight champion Corey Anderson posted this. 1 second left, no follow-up shot, and he was getting up. Why'd he stop the fight? Horrible stoppage. Let it go to the scorecards. Former UFC light heavyweight champ Jamal Hill had this take. You don't call that terrible stoppage. And MMA Fighting also shared some other reactions the fight's stoppage received. But what do you think? Was it a bad stoppage? And do you think Curtis had a shot at receiving the decision victory? UFC fighter reveals shocking information. Over the years, more than a few UFC fighters have made it clear that they're not huge fans of heading to Australia to compete. After all, depending on where they live, the trek to get to the nation can be a very lengthy one, to put it mildly. But recently, Australian featherweight Jack Jenkins provided an additional reason why a lot of fighters don't want to go fight down under. Jenkins explained that non-Australian fighters get hit with a hefty tax to fight in the nation. Jenkins also explained how the UFC tries to work around the situation so that non-Australian fighters will head south to fight.
Fighters have dismissed Sydney as a place to have big fights because of the tax.
If you're an Australian resident, you get 100% of your cash. And then I pay my coaches and I pay my managers. And then what's left, keep some for the tax man, the rest for myself. If you're an American, it's 47%. Bang, on the door. You can pre-claim your expenses. So if you know how much it's going to cost to fly your coaches out and your hotels, but there's so many expenses you don't foresee. What people misunderstand, you have to pay your coaches and your management out of your gross. So if you make 100 grand and you owe 10% to your coach and 10% to your management, but if 50% is already gone to tax, you're only left with 30% to actually spend.
But the only answer really, they get covered an extra 40%.
Well, what they do is they split the contract into a promotional agreement and a fight bout agreement. They might be on 100 grand for the fight and they're on $1 million to promote it.
The Australian government will be collecting taxes from UFC fighters right around the corner, as UFC 312 is set to go down on February 8th in Sydney. Jenkins is booked to fight on the card, as he's scheduled to battle Gabriel Santos. The MMA community reacts to Merab Dvalishvili's body transformation ahead of UFC 311. He posted on social media showing off his physique a week away from his fight against Umar Nurmagomedov. Here's what the community had to say. And before we continue, we have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day. One of the few who isn't sneaking off for PEDs or stem cells regularly. Much respect, bro. GL. Looking good, champ, but you're covering the legs? You are not ready for Umar. At least you can say you had the belt for a short amount of time. Looking shredded, brother. Is Merab only UFC fighter not on steroids? All the time wasting just to get slept. Say what you want about Merab, but hard work doesn't go unnoticed. He might not be the most entertaining fighter in the ring for everyone watching necessarily, but he's there to get the job done, and that's how it should be. All the best, bro. Do you even lift? Serious question. I know 11-year-old boy with more muscles. You soft.